So, Andrew,
Yes.
should we return to our new segment?
Yes. So the Nick's film education, which is fucking dreadful.
Documentary education?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, whatever. Documentary education. Should we call it the quest for truth?
You can do. Was
Why
that not
not?
going to be a different thing?
Nah, we'll call it this.
Okay,
Nick's quest for truth.
sure.
So you watched I'm Not Your Negro, which is
Yes.
a documentary by Raoul Peck, and it's about James Baldwin. I've talked about it before.
Yeah, briefly.
On Field of Streams, and we talked about it last week when I told you to watch it.
We did do when you were talking about like your favourite documentaries a while back. You mentioned it then as well.
So yeah, it's a documentary about James Baldwin, and he was friends with Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King Jr.
Were you going to say Martin Clunes?
I was going to say Martin King, and I was like, just MLK. And he, talks about their lives, their work as civil rights leaders and activists, their deaths, and he talks about that. And there's a lot of interviews with him on TV, and he wrote books, didn't he?
Well, I think my understanding of it is like because obviously the main thing is it's all narrated by Samuel Jackson.
Yeah,
and I believe the narration is basically they're reading his unfinished book.
Yeah.
On the civil rights movement, they're basically one big dramatic reading with occasional interviews spliced in as well.
Yeah. So, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It's sort of so there's this thing I've been thinking about recently about like difference between an informative documentary and an entertaining documentary.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is much more informative in terms of it's quite in terms of presentation. It's quite dry.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's definitely dry. But I like that because, especially dealing with such a delicate subject matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if they fucking Tiger King'd it, it would just be like, offensive, wouldn't it? It just wouldn't have the right tone at all.
It needs to be sort of it needs to be frank and informative and just sort of like, which is fair. The only thing is then it's not the kind of film I'd watch for fun. Yeah. But I think it is an essential work of documentary in terms of it's just getting this information out there, because by the sounds of things he wasn't that well known. This book was never finished.
No, which is shocking, really.
Yeah, so without this film, those writings may have just been lost to history.
Yeah, I had no idea who he was before I watched this film.
Yeah,
and now I'm like, I always remember him because he is obviously very important, and I think what I really like about the film, obviously Samuel Jackson's narration is very good.
Because it almost doesn't sound like him.
Yeah, exactly. But what I was going to say, when he's attached to it, you're so used to seeing him as being this, very, very charismatic, bombastic person.
Yeah, it's quite a comic persona in most films, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in this, he is very, very refined and pulled back. And, you can just about recognise that it's his voice.
I genuinely wouldn't even have known if I hadn't looked it up. And it said at the beginning, it's completely different, yeah.
But, yeah, and I like that they didn't, Samuel, have him be his caricature,
Yeah.
And it was just have him just reading this thing. Apparently, because he has a very close connection to it. Okay, I mean, I could be wrong, because I watched an interview, Samuel Jackson did an interview about this film.
Yeah.
When it came out. And he said, he'd met James Baldwin, and he was somehow involved in the civil rights movement in an important way, and I can't remember what it is, and I feel bad for not knowing what it is.
I mean, I suppose they must have been about a similar-ish age, weren't they? Maybe.
Yes.
Because Samuel Jackson's born, I think 1946?
Yeah, he's quite old, but as in, he was there. He was active, during that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what do you think? As its representation of the truth of the time, do you think was there anything you wanted it to do that it didn't? Do you think it's how do you think? What do you think of its representation of the truth?
Well, so because it's so informative and sort of so kind of almost cut and dry in terms of presentation. Again, it has this feeling that it is quite sort of almost objective.
Yeah, it's very hard to not believe, isn't it?
But then there's at least two layers to this. Firstly, what's being read out are James Baldwin's writings, which will
Yeah.
automatically be filtered through his perception of things.
Yeah.
Which obviously isn't saying he's lying or something, but the point is, it is still his subjective viewpoint.
It's a one man's opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like when he's discussing, say, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and their differences. Like,
Yeah.
we don't know for sure exactly how they interacted, but what we're hearing is what James Baldwin made of their interactions.
Yes.
Which, on a sideway note, I mean, I don't know much about Malcolm X anyway, but it's interesting. I never knew that there was sort of contention between those two figures.
Yeah.
But that was something I learned.
Did you not know that there was tension between them?
I never did like history long enough at school to learn about Malcolm X. The only reason I know he exists is because you've mentioned him and because there's a film of it. That's
Okay.
which I mean, this is another side note, but I find it interesting that like, so Martin Luther King is like the most or Martin Luther King Jr. I should say is like the most famous like figurehead of civil rights movement. Like to the point he has his own day. It's like the one that everyone knows, and it's his "I Have a Dream" speech is like that iconic. And yet Malcolm X and Medgar Evers, Malcolm X has had his film, so he's still like somewhat known. But it's interesting that like Martin Luther King is the one that everyone rallied behind, and the other two sort of went aside.
Well, I think there is a reason for this.
Yes.
And I think it's because Martin Luther King is like almost undeniably in the right in almost every aspect of his being. You know, he wants the civil rights, he wants the equal rights, and he wants to do it peacefully. Whereas Malcolm X is just like, fuck him, you know?
So I think the thing is, Martin Luther King is easier to swallow for like white people, because he's basically like, we shouldn't be against each other, we should be united, it's all about love, and like that's an easy message to swallow.
Yeah.
Well, Malcolm X was a lot more aggressive towards white people, a lot more, not about radical is the right word, but like he has...
It probably, I mean, yeah, he was more radical. I think that's fair to say.
But that's an interesting thing that I'd never seen before that was brought up in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome. And then the second thing, the second layer of like representation of the truth. I've forgotten the precise word.
Yeah.
But
I know
anyway.
what you mean. Yeah.
But like also, you know, they may have even changed what's being read of James. We don't know if we're being read the entirety of Baldwin's work.
Yeah, that is true.
Or just select chapters, or like even if they're changing the words as they go. So yeah, there's at least two layers of like misdirection's also not the right word. What word am I trying to think of?
Well, it's manipulation, isn't it?
That's the one. The one I've been saying for like the last couple of weeks. Manipulation. Yeah.
Also, they obviously choose very precise and important times to slice in the interviews.
Yeah.
Which I also like. The interviews are really good, I think, because it's so obvious how intelligent he is, James Baldwin is, and how different the time was. You know, like he does these interviews where he is very smart and he is very, you know, he is funny, isn't he?
Well, it's also quite like, so they'd have these shows where like, and like some white guy would come in a bow tie and he'd say some like really smug statement which was supposed to be like, you know, a home run, and the audience would all cheer, and then he'd just hit back with something way more intelligent, completely tear him apart and debunk what he said. Is like, yeah, suck on that, bitches.
Yeah, he's a really cool, you know, like amazing person, I think, just because like considering the time it was made, and you know, black people then like weren't considered to be, you know, educated at all, or you know, to be educated a lot less than, you know, white people. Whereas, and then you know, you have this guy come on to this show, and these fucking white hosts are like, oh fucking here we go, you know, and then he's just so much smarter than they are.
Yeah.
And it's just so satisfying to see, and he's so like eloquent, isn't he? And he's so excellently puts his point together and fucking destroys them. I just think it's amazing to see.
On the subject of education, like, there's also the clips of like the first like black children going to white schools and stuff. Or protests outside, and like I thought the thing with like using the swastika for all that was like a new thing, but to see it in like what I think was it the early 60s?
Yeah, late 50s, 60s.
Like literally like 15 years maybe after World War II, and seeing Americans using the swastika. Yeah, and like, oh, some people like that's. It's mind-blowingly stupid, hateful. Like, just completely unself-aware.
Yeah.
I genuinely couldn't quite believe, as like, really? They were doing that then? That
Yeah.
soon after World War II?
Yeah.
What's wrong with them?
But
God.
it's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then there's that thing, like, I can't remember, it's a famous quote, like, think about how stupid the average person is,
Yes.
and then think that 50% of people are more stupid than that.
That is the thing I keep telling myself when I do customer service. Because if you ever want proof of humanity's stupidity, work in customer service.
But it is mind-blowing, like, just the ignorance and hatred that exists, and it obviously still exists today.
And it's so sort of pervasive. Like it seems so difficult to get it to go away. Even though you'd think, like, again, there's not really any such thing as objective good or evil in society. But when there's things like racism, which you think should be like, it should be objectively like not good. Like there's literally no possible way to rationally argue that racism is a good thing. And yet it's still so deep rooted that people won't sick from it. And it's like, how do you not think? How can you not see what you're doing or how your thoughts are? Like it's confounding.
It genuinely just fucking baffles me that how racism is justified at all. Like how in any fucking possible existence is racism ever good? Like it's so fundamentally wrong and so undeniably bad. Like how does it still happen on the level that it does? And it's because people are fucking stupid. And it just appalls me and disgusts me that that there's that famous like you were talking about, that famous photo of the black girl who's just trying to go to school. She's just walking in and like there's that photo of all those people screaming at her. And, they're, like, going to have signs that say horrible racist things. And it's like, how can you look at yourself and just be like, yeah, that's the right thing to do?
Yeah.
And it's just appalling, isn't it?
There was a clip in I'm Not Your Negro, again, during the school bit. And there was, like, some Christian fanatic was, like, talking about, like, oh, yeah, God will forgive you for murder and God will forgive you for, like, these other sins. But, like, mixing races he is getting angry over and was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. How is mixing of different ethnic groups worse than murder? What are you on about?
It's just appalling, isn't it? It's just fucking dreadful.
Also, like, if God didn't want, like, why would he make two, like, different races if he didn't, like... Surely, if that's the way God thinks, he would just have one race. So that argument is completely and utterly flawed in every way I can think of, really.
But isn't there a bit in the Bible that, like, there's a whole reason that, like, to explain away these different things, there's a whole reason in the Bible, like, why people speak different languages and look different and have different skin tones is because it's like a punishment on the human race.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
It was their punishment that everyone would speak different languages and look different, so they wouldn't all, immediately get along or something. And I was like, you're supposed to be benevolent.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of my biggest flaws with like the Christian mythology is like, why if the God you're worshipping has done all the things you think he has, why the hell are you worshipping him? He's a terrible person.
Well, I've seen enough people worship Cthulhu to know that.
Oh, that's true. Well, at least Cthulhu's consistent.
Also, Cthulhu never pretends that he's a good guy,
Also, Cthulhu isn't even necessarily like a bad person. The whole point of Cthulhu is he doesn't give a shit. He is above humanity by like orders of magnitude. That's what cosmic horror is. How have we brought it around to cosmic horror again? What's wrong with us?
Also, Nick, remember at the beginning how we were like, Annihilation is our most talked about film, and we talked about it again.
Oh my god, it literally crops up all the time. We're just so into cosmic horror.
Cool, so I think that about wraps it up. We've talked about some bits about it. Yeah. I think it tries to be objective.
Yeah.
But again, as we've discussed before, like that is impossible in a documentary. But I think it does a very good job of presenting its truth as the truth, and I believed it immediately. I don't know about
Yeah.
you. Like, I have no reason to doubt it at all. Whereas
No.
with, again, fucking Tiger King, here we go. But, you know, Tiger King, I knew I was being manipulated when I was watching the Tiger King. I, like, knew that they set out to do certain things and to entertain you. Whereas this, I feel like, rather than trying to manipulate you, they were trying to inform you.
Plus, also, like, so Tiger King, the stakes in a sort of a global sociological scale aren't that high. Like, it doesn't matter to you as a person whether Joe Exotic was like a good guy or a bad guy. Like, that's just entertainment. But with,
Yeah.
you know, racism, it almost doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not your Negro. I'm, you know, I doubt there's actually a huge amount of manipulation compared to other documentaries. Like, it seems quite straight. And also, even if it was manipulated, the point is it's about racism. It's showing what's happened with the civil rights movement and showing why we should be invested in it. So, like, if it has to manipulate things a bit, like, that's a cause that's almost like objectively like correct.
Yeah.
So, like, that, and that's the end of the day. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, I mean, did you enjoy it?
yeah. I mean, like, again, I wouldn't watch it for fun in the same way I would something like maybe Senna or Touch in the Void, which are like enjoyable stories. But I think, you know, as an informative work, I think it's very much essential viewing. Certainly in these day and age, in this, especially like now with all the stuff with BLM and George Floyd at the moment, like it's very
I think
relevant.
it's actually a very important viewing experience
Yeah,
nowadays, and I think more people should watch it because it's an important part of history that has been not brushed under the rug, but you know, not.
it's not had the attention it needs.
Yeah, definitely, and I think a lot of people would find this very interesting, and
Yeah.
you know, it's important, and he's a very important figure that I think needs more publicity and more attention, like, because you know he is a hero. I think, you know, he is part of this this civil rights movement, and I think, you know, as I said before, like, I didn't know who he was or had ever heard of him before I saw this film, and I think he should be lifted or elevated to a new status. Like, in the interview I watched with Samuel Jackson, he said that James Baldwin should be a household name. He should be, you know, on posters. He should, every black family in America should know who he is. Every white family in America should know who he is.
He should be on par with MLK.
Yeah.
Jr.
Yeah,